you doing today? This is chopping it up with the doc. Here today, just talk a little bit about just basic healthcare issues in the community. We discussed quite a few things in the past couple weeks. I think we've been working on some nutritional things and common things that you may have at home to treat common problems. I I remember discussing with you on a previous show that there are a lot of people out that talk about healthcare regimens and things you can eat and drink for this ailment, or that ailment. The issue is that there's no central body that compiles information about this to be able to tell you that this is the exact amount that you should take for each one of these elements, for whatever medical issues you may or may not have. The problem with that is, well, people are different sizes, weights, um, and people are oftentimes maybe taking medications. So the things that you eat or drink, may not be as bioavailable or available to you for the purpose you're drinking or eating it for as it may be to someone else. So there may be a big disparity between just two or three different people. Everybody drinking the same drink, but we have to sit around. We have to figure out how to work with it until you achieve the benefit that you want. Remember the rule that I given you guys: start low and go slow. So if I tell you, like I will give you some maybe two regimens tonight to help with a common problem. If I say, 5 celery sticks, okay, you may want to start with one and work your way up to 5. If I tell you a half a cup, you might want to start with a quarter cup or 2 tablespoons, and gradually build your way up to make sure you're not going to have any adverse reactions to, one of these concoctions, I call them that, or health drinks to assist you with your medical issue. So, it's interesting. A family member and complaining of a lot of excessive bleeding, female, uterine bleeding, and I remember one of the previous shows we were talking about uterine fibroid embolization. She had just happened to ask, what my thoughts were about hysterectomies. I told her, I said, no, because she was really upset because she was considering having a baby. And, knowing that couple the way I know them, it's like, wow, that is a big leap forward for them even to consider, wanting to, have a child in their life. Because before they wanted no children. Now all of a sudden they're considering it. And, now if she had gone through with the plan that was laid out for her, that would be completely out of the question again. But I was able to talk to her about, the uterine fibroid embolization procedure, which, is uterine sparing, treats the problem, and allows the incubator to basically house the developing baby, so to speak. So the incubator being the uterus. Now, the reason why I'm talking about that is because one of the things that she had been suffering from for years. I mean, years. How well do you really know someone? You don't really know what's going on with them until they tell you. And she's always tired, always got headaches, always dizzy. And the issue is because she just suffers from excessive, dysmenorrhea or uterine bleeding. Prolonged periods that come every single day, all day long. It's just a real nightmare for her. Now, the thing with the anemia is that she's been on iron pills, which is what one of the things that we give people. Give them iron pills. Give them 1 tablet a day, 3 times a day. And she suffers from severe constipation as a result of it. and it doesn't seem to really help her. And it's amazing. I said I wish I had been able to help years ago. I mean, a lot of the problems she's having would have been long ago. Yeah, I mean, we could have gotten rid of these things easily long ago. But the thing is now with this anemia issue, a lot of people suffer from anemia. All right. I mean, you hear people say it, all the time, I'm anemic, I'm anemic, I'm anemic. One of the common symptoms of anemia is what? Lightheadedness, dizziness, always tired, no energy. I mean, these are universal symptoms. I mean, they can mean a million and one things. But today we're discussing anemia, and we'll talk about the differentials as we go forward. Shortness of breath when they, trying to exert themselves. All these little things are associated with anemia. Now, men really should never be anemic unless they have some type of genetic issue where they were born with like a sickle cell trait or sickle cell anemia, so to speak. You find that a lot in the African American community. But if they're not born with anything like that, then men should never have issues with anemia unless there's an underlying problem. Females, on the other hand, are going to be slightly on the anemic side. I said slightly, not grossly, not severe, but slightly, only because they menstruate once a month, normal cycles. So because of that long-going cycling issue, they tend to be mildly anemic, and the heavier their cycles, the more anemic they are. So the thing is that, so how do we fix this? All right. We know what the symptoms are. Okay. All right. A lot of people out there are experiencing them every day. So, I mean, it's easy to give iron and folic acid, and say, take this. But then you find people are having issues with just going to the bathroom on a regular basis. And that, that's even more concerning. The first thing I want to do, though, before we get into how do we handle this anemic problem with just common things we have around the house, is that here you are, you're on your way to the doc, male or female, and the doc says, hey, you know what, I found you to be anemic. All right. Several kinds of anemia, but the one that's more concerning is this the anemia, this iron deficiency. Okay. Now, I'm sure there are quite a few people that you may have heard that have passed away from things like colon cancer. I don't know why all of a sudden there's an uptick in colonic issues like cancer, or if it's just for becoming more aware of it, or if it's because there have been a couple of people that are quote unquote of some sort of status, actors, politicians, those type of people that have suddenly succumbed or just succumbed to colon cancer because it wasn't diagnosed or it was just very aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden, we become more aware of it. But let's go back to the beginning a little bit. All right. Coming into that, I'm tired, I'm dizzy, I'm lightheaded. I get a little shortness of breath. Doctor says, hey, we found you to be anemic. Now, well, okay, doc, why am I anemic? I'm a man. I said, I shouldn't be anemic. I heard that men really shouldn't be anemic unless there's some issues. What kind of issues should I have or would I have that could cause me to be anemic? All right. Well, there are several. Okay. But the first thing is that we have to be concerned about are those things that are life threatening, common things occurring commonly. You know, years ago, we started screening for colorectal cancer after the age of 50. Okay. Routinely after the age of 50. Now the age has dropped down to 45 all of a sudden because of the incidence. The number of people contracting this problem has increased, you know? And I'm going to tell you flat out, I think it's mostly related to your diets, what you're putting in your body. We're putting horrible things into our bodies. A lot of preservatives, these saccharides, disaccharides, these sulfates, these disulfates, these artificial things that maintain food color and make the food last long, these preservatives, okay, these unnatural things, all right? And if we're not getting these unnatural things, we're filling our body with, processed foods or fast foods. We're not eating and drinking and living properly. Okay. And I think what's happening is that we're getting so much of this negative feedback going into that the body's responding, and it's responding in a negative way. All right. And when it does that, unfortunately, we develop issues like, colonic lesions. Okay. I mean, there's a genetic, component associated with it, but we're seeing way too many people with this. Now, they claim that people of color die more readily as opposed to people not of color. Well, the issue with that is not that the disease is more severe in one group of people than it is in the other. The issue is that, well, we wait until the last minute to go find out what's going on. We wait till we get to we go to the doctor after we've lost 40 pounds and, we just don't feel good and we got pain. So, I'm going to, plain and simple. All right. Whereas someone else may go to the doctor on a regular basis for routine checkups. All right. Or as soon as they notice any change, we wait a little bit longer. And by the time we get there, oftentimes people of color, all right, the stage of the illness is at a latter stage as opposed to maybe in other ethnic groups, where the staging is a lot lower because they underwent an early detection process. All right. And that's what this is all about, the early detection process. We're talking about anemia. So now it's a lot easier. All right. They have this Cologuard, all right, that you can actually order, comes to your house, all right, with the instructions. You basically, when you're going to the bathroom and you're wiping yourself or cleaning yourself, you just apply a little bit to the card, fold the card, drop it in the packaging, and send it out. It's that easy. Okay, and basically the results in there will tell your physicians, will receive a report saying that, hey, this smear is consistent with a possible carcinoma, recommend follow-up. Okay, or it'll say no, negative, nothing. All right, now negative nothing sometimes is not always nothing, but for the most part, you can rest assured that, like, hey, the likelihood, okay, say the likelihood that I have this colonic carcinoma is minimal because I'm testing negative. All right, it's not 100%, but it could be 95%, 98%, or 99% likely that this negative is a true negative, so to speak. Now, if that's the case, and you're at the right age, if you have no symptoms, you can feel confident that you can wait another year, 6 months to a year, and test yourself again. If you're on the other hand, then the doctor's going to bring you in and they're going to perform a procedure called a colonoscopy, where they're going to look and see what the problem is, if there is a problem. Okay. And that's how that works out. I mean, in the past, we would just say recommend colonoscopy every 10 years or flexible sigmoidoscopy, prior to that. Where we are, knowing the way people are, we're not going to do the flex sig because getting people to prep, drink that liquid, go to the bathroom for the next 24 hours, okay, and then come in to get the procedure, which no one really wants to have done. They're not going to want to go through this twice. So we just go ahead and get them in there once, get them cleaned out, check. We get to see the colon all the way around to the other side of the belly and basically say, hey, this is what we got, if we have anything. Now, all right, so this is something that you have to check, all right, on a regular basis because, hey, I'm anemic, all right? Why am I anemic? Well, I'm mostly worried about that because that could be life-threatening, correct? Now, the scary thing is our hardest thing is women because we know that they have a reason to be anemic, right? The scary part about that is that if they're suffering from heavy periods, all right, or issues with fibroids where they're bleeding irregularly on a constant basis, then they're going to be even more anemic. All right, tune into what I'm saying to you. You're going to be more anemic. So you're at the gynecologist's office, and they're treating you for anemia. Okay, because your anemia is not going to get better until they set you up to have a hysterectomy or what have you to take the issues away from that issue of irregular bleeding away. Okay, but the thing is this here. I've been in a situation several times where that anemia was not the result of that irregular bleeding from menses. All right, that menses bleeding blocked out the underlying problem. So everybody says, hey, you're anemic because you're bleeding. It's obvious. All right, let's get this hysterectomy. All right. After a while, eventually someone will say, you know what? Let me just get a scope and see what's going on. A colonoscopy, so to speak. And then you find that, wow, look at that. That's really anemia is really coming from. That's where the problem is. All right. The uterine problem is just, a red herring or, just a mask over the real issue. Now, a lot of people, if you're not asking the right questions, could this be something else or is it this? Okay? It's your body. You have to ask this. All right? Your life. All right? Even though we go to see professionals and we expect them to know a lot of information, this can often be overlooked because the obvious, all right, it's blocking the issue that should be really obvious, the real problem. Okay? So it's quick for them to say, we don't need to do anything else. We just need to treat this. And we give you some iron, some birth control pills, et cetera, send you on your way. The problem is by the time we figure out what the real problem is, you're no longer at the beginning stage. You're at the end stage, okay? Which means that, your chances of survival are down to 5% as opposed to 95%, if we had done something early on. It reminds me of another story of a gentleman who was diagnosed with new onset diabetes. The problem with that is that he was diagnosed around the age of, I'm gonna say he was about 60, but somewhere between 63 and 65. And that for me is a red flag. All right. Yeah, you can develop diabetes. All right. But I shouldn't develop diabetes at that age. All right. I'm going to develop issues with my sugar is usually around the 40s, 30s, maybe younger. All right. But after 50, all right, I need, you got to think a little bit. All right. Why would a man that never had any issues with sugar develop diabetes into his 60s? Okay. It's easy to overlook, very easy to overlook. And treated with, what was he treated for? Sugar. Taking the medication for sugar, taking the medication, taking insulin, going to see his regular PCP, giving insulin. A couple years later, he started developing pain. Why do you have pain? Probably just a little bit of gastritis. Let's give you a little bit of Nexium or Tagamet or, Zantac or, Prilosec. That's a common one. So he's taking this, he's taking the insulin, he still has this pain. So I said, you know what? You need a scan. Why? I'm not his doctor, just a friend. But ask the doctor, your doctor, to get you a scan. What kind of scan? Tell him you want an MRI with thin pancreatic slices, just to make it complete. And he looks at me. He's like, why? So let me just tell me what the results are when you get it. I didn't want to scare him. I just said, maybe that scared him a little bit, but he got the scan and it was just as I suspected. All right. He ended up with a pancreatic lesion, which was unfortunately cancerous. And most people that have known other people already know the prognosis for that is pretty poor. So sometimes, you're the general. When you go see someone for help, you're the general. You need to express yourself and just say, you know what? I know this looks like A, but are you sure that there's nothing else that it could possibly be? All right. That's what, they should be going through all the different possibilities in their head that could actually be causing the problem that you're complaining about and ruling them out. Say, it could be this, but there's a small chance that it's this, or this. So what I'm going to do is these things to make sure that this, and this, is ruled out, so to speak, so that my initial concern is correct. So my story, the story you give, that's the one thing you got to work on doing, is telling the proper story, okay? So that he has enough information to process what's going on with you, okay? So with that in mind, all right, going back to the anemia issue, all right, once again, most common cause for anemia is what? Bleeding. Other common causes of anemia are chronic diseases, medications, reflux. People take these Prilosec and Nexium. You take these things for a long period of time. Yes, they may cause a little bit of the anemia. Certain antibiotics, can cause anemia, like Bactrums, or they have a longer generic name, but Bactrim. the penicillins, they can all cause anemia. Now, one of the other symptoms, which is actually very common, I didn't mention, is pica. Pica. People are like, what the heck is that? Well, if you notice somebody constantly eating ice, that's the most common thing. They always got ice chips, always eating ice. For some reason, people that are anemic, okay, they're always looking for ice chips, ice chips, ice chips. That's pica. All right. All right. Basically looking for that. If for some reason the symptoms make them want to eat ice chips. It's the weirdest thing in the world. All right. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Everything, you also got to think about things from head to toe, most commonly the thyroid. All right. Chronic infections. All right. All these types of things can cause issues with anemia. Okay. Now, with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about B12 and folate. Okay. B12 and folate cause a different type of anemia. All right. We call iron deficiency anemia microcytic. That's because the cells get small. And we call B12 and folic acid deficiency macrocytic because the cells get bigger. All right. But they're both basic anemias. Now, B12 deficiency may take a long time to develop. Okay. But its manifestations are a lot more severe than a folic acid deficiency. B12 abnormalities are associated with numbness, tingling, imbalance, what we call an ataxic gait, but basically you just walk, you have a difficulty with walking. Make it simple. Okay. Common causes for these types of anemia. Folic acid deficiency, not really associated with any neurological problems. Okay. Both are actually easy to correct, easy to fix, but it's not, they're not easy to detect because by the time people come in to see you, they're so deficient that you got to do replacement, especially B12. They come in with problems walking. You find them on walkers, you find them on crutches, canes because they can't steady themselves. It's just like, wow. And you do their tests, and like, some people think they got MS, and they might have a simple B12 deficiency. Where is B12? Okay, well, it's going to be in your food. Where? Mostly meat. Meat products. Very simple. So, who are the people that are most likely to develop issues with B12? Well, those are going to be your vegans, vegetarians, or people that just don't eat meat. Okay? Period. You've seen a lot of people that are heavy having bypass surgeries. Okay? So any types of procedures or medications that you're taking related to your stomach can cause an anemia, a malabsorption issue. Okay? So whether it be B12, folate, or iron, you're taking medications that interfere with the absorption of these things. It can cause an anemia. So you got to be aware of what's going on. Let's make it. Let's simplify this thing. All right, even more. You have we have to figure out how we're going to fix this. Okay. I mean, we know that you can have issues with confusion, in severe cases, weakness, The one thing you got to be careful with is, of all things, it causes, B12 and folate deficiencies, is alcohol. All right. Alcohol, it interferes with the liver. It can cause issues with anemia. So we have to be mindful of our alcohol consumption. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we got two regimens here that I'm going to share with you today. One is called the green juice. We're going to call it green juice. Why? Well, simple thing. One peeled lemon, a half a cup of parsley, 2 pears, fruit pears. You want to cut them up a little bit, maybe just cut them in quarters. All right. 3 cups of spinach, fresh spinach, and 6 celery sticks, so to speak. Want to probably chop them up as best you can. Throw it all in your blender. Okay. Maybe take, maybe some coconut juice, all right, or coconut water, whatever you want to call it. Pour that in there, okay, and basically just grind it up until it's a nice smoothie. All right, drink that down. These foods are loaded with iron. Okay, they're loaded with B12 and folic acid. All right, not so much B12, but folic acid and iron. B12 is tricky. I've had people ask me, say, what can I take for my B12 deficiency? So, the best thing for because the stores last forever. I said, once a month, man, just go out and eat a steak or a cheeseburger. Easiest way to keep yourself from having issues with B12 is once a month, you go have that steak or a cheeseburger. All right. Eat you some meat. Eat you some chicken. Eat you some fish. The Mediterranean diet, I always tell people, fish and or chicken once a week, meat once a month. All right. That's good for cholesterol, sugar, high blood pressure, weight management, you name it. All right. The rest of everything else is purely vegetables. It's a wonderful diet because, well, first of all, it's very healthy. All right. It took a while for me to come off of a lot of the meat products. So what I would do, all right, for me, I cheat. Whatever is being made in the kitchen, I thought I'm going to take the sauce and pour it over top my vegetables. Just it would, I'd have the flavor of whatever they were cooking. The meat, let them eat it. Me, I just want the juices on top of my rice and my corns and my string beans, whatever vegetables. You can use as many vegetables as you like, eat as much starch as you like. But the thing was, like, there were no meats. Now, if you got issues with sugar, of course, you don't want too many of those starches. All right. But the green juice, all right, you can make this at home. All right. A lemon, parsley, a couple of pears, some spinach, and some celery sticks. All right. Not too expensive. A lot of these things you may already have in your refrigerator. If not, they're easy to pick. It's easy to pick up, any of these things at your common supermarket or vegetable stand. Now, I was reading one day that some people actually make liver juice. Ugh. I don't even like the way liver tastes, when it's in its meat form. So I ain't eating that. I'm definitely not going to drink I'm not going to grind up that and drink a liver juice. No way. Why? Because liver is rich in all of those, especially B12. It would be the worst meat there is, in my opinion, unfortunately, that would give you all your B12. But if you want, if you can tolerate the liver juice, by all means, enjoy. But for me, it's got to be palatable and something I'm going to come back to on a regular basis. I can't see myself after that going back to that again. Now, another good regimen would be some spinach. Okay. I'm gonna say a half a cup of cashews, or you can get the cashew butter. I prefer the actual cashews themselves. I can grind those up and mix them into my drink. Um, 2 cups of raspberries, coconut, okay, some chickpeas, coconut or almond milk, and basically you just want to blend it down till it's nice and smooth, and you can drink that down. All right. These are just It's just 2 different regimens that are good for people with anemia. Now, the reason why I like these is that first of all, it doesn't require any tablets to take. They're palatable, and there's no issues with constipation. Okay. And if you fix the underlying problem with anemia, a cup of either one of these every day for a couple of weeks, and that should bring your blood count levels up to normal or close to normal. A couple of weeks is all it takes. All right. So some of the foods that you want to look at that are good sources of iron, B12 and folate, nuts, awesome. Also lots of protein in nuts. Okay. Dried fruits. I mean, we've all seen those in lots of different forms and lots of different places. Dried fruits are very good. Okay. Iron fortified cereals. It's funny. When I first thought about iron fortified cereals, I was thinking about, wow, what's iron fortified? And the only thing I could think of was baby cereal, that rice cereal and barley cereal that babies eat. Then I realized that no, cream of wheat is an iron fortified cereal. I forgot all about cream of wheat. The Farinas. Iron fortified cereal. There may be some cold cereals that are iron fortified as well. So you want to definitely, look at those. Legumes, basically beans. I know people that won't eat beans, but they're wonderful sources of the folic acid, iron, etc. Beans. Okay. Doesn't matter. Pinto beans, lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, beans. And of course, your dark leafy green vegetables, spinach, broccoli, and the one vegetable that I forgot that you can make a wonderful juice out of is beets. It's funny, blood red beets, or the silver beets, whatever one you call them, they look like blood. They're actually good for the blood. So you can, cut up a couple of beets. You can throw some spinach in there, some of the other ingredients that we talked about, and make a wonderful juice. Beet juice is actually it doesn't taste too bad. It actually tastes pretty good. All right, especially when you're going to mix it with some of the other things to take away some of the acidity, and it tastes good. All right. Of course, oats and the one thing, tofu also has, rich and, B12 and folic acid. All right. As well as iron. Now, the other thing that's good is prune juice. Okay. Prune juice is a wonderful source of iron. Okay. So you can actually drink some of that, and that'll actually help you with your blood count. So now remember, if you were taking any kind of notes or you got a good memory, and you're putting these things together, all right, write it down. Write how much you put in, drink it, see how it tastes, see how it makes you feel. Give it a month and see if you notice a difference and how you're doing. Right? If you find that, I may need to add another celery stick or another cup of spinach. You got to make it to you. Don't accept, so easily my formula. All right. My formula is just generic. All right. Tailor make it to you and what you like, what you need, but you have an idea that things that need to go into your blender, all right, to make your drinks, all right, to help you with your anemia. Write it down, all right, use that and keep a chart. You go to the doctor, let's say you go to the doctor and your blood count is, say, 35, all right, and you're on this regimen and for 2 or 3 months, and you go back and your blood count's still 35, so you increase it. All right. And you go back in another month or two and you find your blood count's now 38. So, wow, I've increased it to this and I got a 3-point increase in my blood count. Well, do I want to stay there, or do I want to see where I'm at in 3 more months? If it doesn't move or it gets worse, then I know I need to add more. See, the one thing is that most of the products, even though they're good for us, our body breaks them down and metabolizes them different. So the things that we need, the heme for hemoglobin, okay, or iron, all right, are not readily available to us because we don't necessarily metabolize it well enough to get everything out that we want. So the first pass metabolism, so to speak, or the way our body breaks down things, doesn't necessarily give us what we need all the time, just because that's just the way our body works. So we have to adjust things, all right, in order to achieve the desired benefit, for, a lot of these special drinks. All right. So when we look at these special drinks, that's pretty much we want to write them down. All right. And stay with it. Be consistent. Make sure you jot down if you're having any issues from it, or, if you notice you go to the bathroom more frequently, you're irritated, you're itchy, you can't sleep, whatever. So I notice I've been drinking this drink, and these are the things that have been happening. Okay. And if nothing happens, say everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. If you find that it helps with something else, it also helps with this. And that's what you want to share. All right. Share it in your blogs, share it with me, because that way I can share it with everybody. And say, okay, if you drink this special green juice, these are the benefits from it. And these are the things that are common that have people concerned. All right. So that this way now you're creating a central database. All right. So that people can now say, for your anemia, let's make it part of the routine protocols for treatment. So we're not just giving iron. We're saying, hey, why don't you drink some green juice? All right, take some raspberries, some nuts, little coconut juice, all right, some pears, and make it taste good. And let's throw some beets in there. All right, grind it up, drink that down. All right, you can kind of mix and match. You may just want a green juice with just kale, collards, spinach. Okay, you may just want something like that. All right, you might want to throw some apples in there just to give it some better flavor, so to speak. You can adjust these things as you go, and they kind of interchangeable. All right, so that you can make things the way you like them, so to speak, and that's what you want to share. Okay, and by all means, if you have an opportunity to share it, listen, send it to us at Clark TV Network. All right, so I can keep the data and the information, and basically say, hey, this is actually what's working for people. I want people to be able to benefit from each other, so to speak, and that information. So with that being said, as a recap, from previous weeks, all right, allergy season, once again, keep them outside. I'm always going to remind you of certain things. Keep the allergens outside. When you come in, leave the shoes at the door. Okay. All right. When you wash up at night, this way you don't want to put, the allergens in your bed with you when you're sleeping. So make sure you wash up after being outdoors all day, get all that pollen off. If you're taking allergy medication, the best time to take it is in the evening. All right. Let it build up in your system because the pollen counts are highest when? Between 5 in the morning and 10 in the morning. Why? Because that's when everybody's going outside. So pollen's just waiting to grab it. All right. So we take our medications before we need them. What does that do? That primes the body and it turns those cells that are waiting to be release those chemicals down so they can't release those chemicals and make you sick. Allergy season. That's what's going on right now. All right. Now, we just had an issue with some smoke. These forest fires in Canada, the dry weather in general, because, these fires can spark just like that because, the ground is just so dry. But these fires in Canada, the air just basically just worked its way down across the Canadian border and straight on down to continental USA. I came out of the house one morning and it was just foggy. It just smelled like something was burning. I was like, what the heck is burning? I found out later there was fires. But the smoke was pretty thick. All right. When you see things like that, all right, and if you don't have to go out, don't go out. All right. We don't know. They tell us it's a forest fire, but we don't really know what's floating in that air, correct? So if you got to go out, wear a mask. Now, I've had some people overkill. They've gone out and actually bought the big old gas mask, and they're walking around with the gas mask on, like we've been exposed to some kind of chemical warfare agent. You want to do that? That's fine. If you got to be out, why not? Better safe than sorry, and protect yourselves. Eyewear, because it is smoke, it can irritate the eyes. The mask, keep everything out of your ears. Make sure when you come in, you wash your hair and, basically take a good shower. So whatever particulates are floating in the air, you're just not keeping them on your person. We have to be mindful of things that are going on. So, it was funny to see that. I was like, look at that. I'm seeing these little white things flying. I'm like, that can't be snow. What is that? It's ash. It's falling ash. It's like, wow, it's actually ash. And it's coming from 7 hours away. It's amazing, how big the world is, but actually how small it is as well. All right. So you want to make sure that, we protect ourselves from not only that, but anything that comes floating by, so to speak. So we still have these viruses out here. So once again, right, hands clean. All right, public places, wear a mask if you need to. All right, and basically just avoid it if you can. So with all that being said today, I'm going to say goodnight. And until next week, we'll chat again. But in the meantime, God bless. Everybody be safe.